Hello and welcome to a new video I've been wanting to make for a bit. This is a tier list for how difficult the bosses are. Just before I go into the tier list, I want to mention how I want to do this ranking. This is not about the design or how well the boss fits into the game or the gameplay in general. It's just more about how difficult is the boss and how much do you have to actually plan for them, because how much you have to plan for the boss is kind of how difficult the boss is as well. Just to go over the tiers really quickly, we have Always Dangerous. This is just the hardest bosses in the game most of the time. These are the bosses that provide the most risk to any run, because they are bosses that you can't just go in and even if you have a good plan, you still have to rely on RNG for a bit, because sometimes the boss just kills you and there's nothing you can really do about it. Then we have the need very specific plans for specific heroes. This is really just about strats that need extremely specific heroes that if you don't bring this one hero, then you will probably lose the boss fight, and there's only a few of these. Same with the Always Dangerous. These tiers are going to be not very well populated. Then we have the need a plan bosses, just bosses you have to go in with a plan. You need a specific strategy, and you have to think differently. You can't just bring any random team and expect to beat the boss consistently. You have to specifically plan for them. Then we have Generally Good Team. This is just bosses, you bring a generally good team, you will have a good time. The boss is unlikely to do a lot. There's maybe some small restrictions, oh, you can't get shuffle or something, or you have to bring a stun or something, which if you just build a normal team with a very, very small restriction, then this is completely fine. The Need a Plan is more about you have to specifically restrict yourself to not bring certain stuff. And then we have the Null tier. This is just bosses you never care about. You can generally bring any team, and if you cannot beat this boss, it's most likely just because your team sucks ass, and at that point, I'm sorry, skill issue. Dying to these bosses is extremely unlikely. You have any amount of good team building. Let's start right off with Collector, and to nobody's surprised that this guy goes into the Null tier. This is just not a boss. You can just stun on turn 1, he just loses immediately because his speed is not that high. His stun resist is pretty bad. You just stun him, he falls over, you get 4 actions into him, he sits at rank 1, he doesn't have great defenses, he just falls over. By himself, he's not very threatening. Show Collection, who cares? Lifesteal can be dangerous because it's a decently big hit and a bleed, but that's his only dangerous attack, and you just don't care about him. The only thing you really care about is the Collected Highwayman, and he can at max spawn 2 of those. They don't get an ambush action, aka if you stun him turn 1, you don't get any Highwayman action until turn 3, which is amazing. You can stun them very easily, you can kill them even, but most of the time you just kill Collector before the Highwayman spawn, because his HP is not good. He just doesn't do anything, and he's just not a big threat. Going right next to him is Necromancer. Necromancer just doesn't do anything either. You stun him early, even if he outspeeds you, he has slightly better speed than Collector, so he's kinda more dangerous in that regard, but you just stun him anyway. He doesn't have great stun resist. The stuff he spawns is just even less threatening than Collector, because you don't care about skeletons. What's he gonna do? Spawn 1 Bone Soldier? I'd rather fight If you want to order this, I honestly think Necromancer is less dangerous than Collector. His own actions are more dangerous. He can deal some pretty solid stress, but it's never enough. And the summons are obviously just not nearly on the level as Collected Highwayman, because you have the Bone Defender who just gets stunned. He only summons 1, which is very important. Collector immediately gets his 3 summons. They don't get an ambush action obviously, but on their second turn, you will get hit for 3 actions plus Collector, aka 4 actions, if you don't stun anything or you don't kill anything. With Necromancer, it's you get hit for his action and 1 spawned action. It's that's just not enough, man. And the summons aren't super threatening. Bone Soldier can hit hard, but he has no way of applying bleed, so he's not really a threat until so you double hit, or you get hit twice, which should never really happen to any good team. The Bone Defender, you just stun him, he doesn't do a lot of damage. He's not very threatening. He's more survivable than the summoned Man-at-Arms, but it's still not enough. You have fucking Bone Rebel, which, okay. If he summons Bone Rebel, he just doesn't do anything. There's the Captain at Champion. He doesn't spawn a Veteran, he only spawns on Champion, from Necromancer specifically. He is size 2, but even then, it's only 1 action. You stun the size 2 enemy, you just win. You just hit Necromancer in the face. He doesn't die as quickly as Collector, but Necro is just not a big threat either. His actions are kind of dangerous. He can deal a lot of stress, but that only happens if you let it happen, and by himself, if you have like a solid dungeon before that, you are like at like 20 stress on everyone even, which I would consider like a pretty meta dungeon rather than like a good dungeon. And even if you're like a bad dungeon where everybody's like 60, 80 stress, like most of the time this guy still doesn't afflict anyone, and if he doesn't afflict anyone, there's no risk. And heart attack, like at that point you have to go into the fight afflicted, and if you go into any fight afflicted, like I would always consider just running, because afflictions are really bad. Now, going from two of the easiest bosses in the game to arguably the hardest because he's mandatory, or if you do all bosses, obviously, Flesh. Flesh is extremely dangerous because basically the best strategy you have is you just rush Flesh and hope you kill it before it kills you, because all the strategies you have are like, you bring Houndmaster with like the dot cleave, you bring like PD, you bring Blight, you bring A-Bomb, you bring Flagellant, that kind of stuff, right? But you don't really counter the boss in any way because it's just not possible. You cannot counter Flesh outside of like bursting it down quickly, and that's like the only strategy. And basically what that means is for the entirety of the fight, you get hit in the face by 4 Flesh actions. And just by that you should already be able to tell, because getting hit in the face by 4 actions for like the entire fight is already like a big risk. Because in Darkest Dungeon, most fights, like, you have like maximum 1 turn where all 4 enemies take all of the actions, and not even then. Like if you have a good team, and most of the time you take like 2 or 3 actions at max on turn 1, and after that you take like 1 or 2. And with Flesh, for the entire duration of the fight, you have to take 4 actions to the face. And it's not even that like Flesh's actions are like less dangerous. There's one that's less dangerous, which is obviously the heal, but every other action is like extremely dangerous. Like Maws of Life can target 2 heroes, hits big, it hits for a lot. If it crits, it bleeds you. Same with like Undulating Invasion. It hits you for big numbers. If it crits you, which I think it has higher crit chance than Maws of Life, it also applies a Blight, and you can just get one-tapped by Flesh, and you just fall over, you lose a hero, and there's nothing you could have done about it, because it just one-taps you from almost full HP. That's how dangerous Flesh is, and the best way to deal with it is just to burst it down and hope that it doesn't kill you. And that just makes it an always dangerous fight. You can never count on like Flesh being consistent. It's always like, sometimes Flesh just ends your Deathless Run, there's nothing you could have done, because it just decides, yup, I'm gonna get like 1 stun resist and I'm gonna hit you for like 50, not 50, but like close to 30, and blight you, and your heroes high rolls to speed, and you just fall over, and there's nothing you can do. And that's very unfortunate always. It feels very bad, because there's just nothing you can do. Now, moving on, the Cyst. This thing goes into like need a plan. You could argue generally good team, in my opinion, but I think the plan is better for it, mainly because it's a Darkest Dungeon mission, and you always plan for the Darkest Dungeon missions. The Cyst is not that dangerous. Like, if you do the fight in the way it's intended to be done, aka you kill the teleporter and you don't get teleported, like, the Cyst wastes half the actions, which leaves it with 1, and having essentially 1 action coming in is just not something you really care about, especially if you can stun it as well as it's stunnable. You just bring like an occultist and you just stun it like every second action, and then it spawns the ad, you kill the ad, you stun it, and then it doesn't do anything for the entire turn. You just hit it. You just dealt damage completely free. And that's essentially like the Cyst. It's just, you bring great rank 4 damage and the fight just plays itself, especially because the one place where it can show up, which is Darkest Dungeon 3, you always have a camp for these, especially if you play optimally, because you just look at the map and you have like a pathing that has like, you can camp before each fight. And if you have your entire camp buffs up and you cannot deal with like Cyst, it's a bit questionable, but obviously you need like a lot more rank 4 damage, I would prefer, because you need to be consistent at killing the Cyst. Not the Cyst, the teleporter. If you can't kill the teleporter consistently, that's very rough, so you just have to bring more rank 4 reach than usual, which is why I want to put it into Neither Plan, but you can definitely put it down here, and I wouldn't argue with it. Now, the Warlords. These both go into Always Dangerous. They are such a pain in the ass to fight. It's Revelation is obviously the main point. You have to sacrifice 3 of the trinket slots, which is extremely painful. You have to bring a guard, so you have to bring like 1 of 3 heroes, and that's just like more than enough. Like, that alone would be enough to put them up here, because you need to bring the specific hero, but they are also still dangerous even with that specific hero. So I definitely think they belong to Always Dangerous, because it's like, it's Darkest Dungeon 3. Both of these can hit for very big numbers, and both are very threatening, because they both apply bleed. not Blade. They apply Blight, one can stun you, they hit you very hard. Revelation is a huge pain in the ass, you have to bring specific heroes, you have to basically waste some actions guarding. Like if you play it right, then you have Mad Arms to press command, and then it's not really a waste to press guard anymore because you get like plus 25% damage, so... But you know what I mean. They are always dangerous, like even if you have a good team for them, they can still fuck you over if they like start critting you like every attack. Just start resisting everything. It's like, yeah, like you just can't do anything. Counters. She needs a very specific plan. You need to play decently defensive because how long the fight is, and just because of that, I think it needs like a very specific plan. That's why I want to put it up there, because I don't think it justifies like need a plan. You have to like play very specifically. It's usually like you have to bring like very good defenses. Mad Arms is pretty much a requirement just because of how good he is for the fight. Trigger hitting is very limited because heavy boots are amazing for this fight, and you need the move resist. But going in with like a non-heavy boots team is very rough, and going in with like an offensive team is extremely dangerous. Like you need to have very good defenses for this fight because of how long it is and how survivable Countess is, and I think just for that she belongs up here. If you have like a good team, then she's very doable, and she doesn't really have a way to kill you, which is why I don't want to put her into the always dangerous, because like you just bring like Mad Arms Vestal, Flagellant Leper, like that's a very common team. You equip heavy boots on all four. What does she do? Like at that point you just kind of just win, and I think that putting her here is a fair judgment. Garden Guardian, you just bring a good team. He is really not dangerous. Obviously Shipbreaker makes this fight a lot better because you can 1 bypass the guard and 2 bypass the prot. But mainly bypass the guard, like the prot stuff just doesn't matter because Garden Guardian just doesn't do anything. Like you kill the spear and what does it do? Like you have like 2 full turns from your entire team to deal with just the shield damage. Like I'm sorry, if you can't deal with the shield damage, like your team is really, really bad. You still have to just bring like your team because the dungeon before that is actually fairly dangerous, and because it is still Courtyard, and Courtyard is like one of the more difficult regions. But, and that's kind of like the reason why I don't want to put it down into Lumout here. It's just like, you do have to like have a decent team to get to Garden Guardian, and you do need to have like a functional team, so you could probably move this down even, but I'll just put it to a generally good team. Because I think these two just deserve to belong in like a tier of their own. Hag. She just needs a plan. Like, you have to bring good rank 4 damage. You have to bring huge burst for rank 3, rank 4. You bring like A-Bomb, Hellion is great. Occultist, Arbalist Duo, Houndmaster. Like, there's a lot you can do for Hag. Just because you bring like a team that hits the backline hard. And that's just kinda it. And for that, like, you just need to like specifically plan for that. You have to maybe bring like more backline damage than you are used to. Having someone who can heal from anywhere is important, aka bring Crusader. Most of the time it's still Occultist, because Crusader in Hag fight can be a bit rough. But you just go in, you burst her down. She doesn't do anything by herself. Unless you get someone pop off the pot, she just isn't dangerous. And if you build correctly, then she never lasts until then. Baron. Much of the same. I think I'll put them here, and we could maybe argue moving up, but I don't think so. Like, he just isn't that big a threat. If you have a good team for him and you know how the fight works, it's just kind of very easy to deal with him. Obviously, if you plan for him, he's super easy. Like, this is one of the easiest bosses if you plan for him, because you just bring triple riposte, and that strategy just wins. You can hyper buff Leper, see a big number, and he just dies. You bring any team with like good setup, aka you bring like Jester, you bring like Plague Doctor. Like, there's so much you can do in this fight that because you get so much time during like the egg phase where you just buff up your entire team because the boss doesn't do anything. You just pop 1 egg per turn, you set up completely for free, and then you just slap the boss with like 99 buffs. And it really allows the buffs in this game to shine because they are ridiculous. Like, the amount of buffs in this game that you just never use because you don't need them are incredible. And if you have like Revenge on Leper, it's really fun to. The fight is very fun in my opinion, just because you get to see like very big numbers, and I love flashing big orange numbers. That's like the entire reason I play this game still. But yeah, Baron, you need to like plan for setting up. And if you have like a team that can set up, you just don't care about this boss. Like the dungeon team that you usually use for like one cycling at the Baron mission, like the Baron dungeon, which is like you have like Houndmaster, PD, Occultist, Shieldbreaker. Like that team has like very little setup, I would say. Like you only really have like Serpent's Way and 2 times Emboldening Vapors from PD. You put that on like Houndmaster, you just destroy the boss. And if that is enough, then most teams that have like any amount of setup are enough. You just have to play the fight right, and that is a skill issue. Pounder, it's just the same. You just need a specific plan. You bring extra backline reach. You bring like PD without blinding gas. You just bring like Disorienting Blast. You bring Emboldening Vapors. You can bring like super hyper buffed cleaves with PD. You just press like Emboldening on like a really big cleave. Like you can run Grape Shot Blast even. You don't run Grape Shot Blast. You press Tracking Shot. You run Gunslinger Sparkle, and suddenly the skill is like really high accuracy. You press like 2 Emboldening Vapors on him. It's ridiculous. Like you are critting like the cannon for like 40 while also killing everything around it. It's very fun to watch. The fight just takes ages if you don't do like something with a cleave. If you want to be consistent, because you just kill every brigand ever, because if you kill all brigands and you get like 2 chip damage onto the cannon every turn, like the cannon is gonna lose. And that's the entire plan. Or you just sit there, you deal 0 damage to cannon, eventually you will get a crit, and if you get that crit, you get extra damage onto cannon, and you just go like that. And eventually, you will have an opening for dealing damage to cannon. You just have to take your time. You play very slow. This fight can last like 60 turns if you have a bad team, or you get unlucky. But it is what it is. If you bring like a good team, this fight is a complete joke. And you just need to like maybe build towards more backline damage and more accuracy. But like both of those things are like technically stuff you could just bring on like a generally good team, which is why like a lot of these fights, maybe not Baron, but Cannon and Sis could definitely move down, but it's a lot of stuff like down here that you could argue could move down, but it is what it is. True. Technically this team needs a bit of planning. You need some way to deal with the Anchorman, aka you need a frontline stun, you need like a frontline cleave, you need to have a team that doesn't get fucked by shuffle. And that's pretty much it. The crew itself doesn't do anything. Like any team can technically beat this boss for completely free if you get like a single virtue. And if you're willing to virtue farm, you bring like Shieldbreaker. I don't think Shieldbreaker works. Does she work? I think it does work with Shieldbreaker, where you just sit in the Nightmare. You just afflict a person over and over that isn't Shieldbreaker, because Shieldbreaker is guaranteed to afflict in her Nightmare. But I think other heroes can go virtuous in the Nightmare. So just sit in the Nightmare, you wait, you pass turn over and over until this one hero afflicts. If they get the virtue, great, you immediately win the fight, because crew doesn't do anything against virtued heroes. You just keep that one virtued hero in rank 1, you just win. You get free stress healing even. And if you hit the affliction, you just sit in the Nightmare, you just keep spamming stress healing. If you have like a Crusader or a Jester, you just sit there. Then, because there's no reinforcements in Shieldbreaker Nightmare, you just stall off the entire affliction, and you go again. Does it take a lot of time? Yes. I recommend speedbots. Is it optimal? Also yes. So technically you have to consider it because it's optimal. Obviously nobody wants to do that, but even then, like crew, you just bring like Occultist, you slap into rank 1, you bring a team that doesn't get completely destroyed by shuffle. Don't bring Leper, don't bring Hellion, just bring a team that doesn't get fucked by shuffle. It's really that easy. Like, and then this boss just doesn't do anything, because anything except the Anchorman stress just ridiculously low. Like this boss hits for like 6 damage with like their main offensive attack. And the final boss, I'm gonna put it here. It's not as easy as these two. You have to have like a team that does things. Bring like one healer and you'll be fine. This boss isn't dangerous, you know this. Prophet. He is one of the more specific bosses. You need to have pretty much like either a guard, which is less consistent, but it still works. It's good enough. Or you can run debuffs, which are technically more consistent, but like the difference between like running double Houndmaster and spamming dodge and applying debuffs is like, it's like below 1%, the difference in like consistency. Because technically with Houndmaster, you can either stun through all your dodge, which is like a minimum 5%. You get stunned, you drop your guard, he somehow like, if you're on torches, he crits you, and then you eat like a blight on top, and then you die. And it's like, there's so many things that have to go right for like a kill from Prophet to happen if you have like the right strategy. So yeah, but you need to have the right strategy, aka you need to either have like the guards, or you need to have like the divas, which means leper plus occultist, plus probably like at least one arbalist. You do that, then the boss doesn't do anything. Like then there's nothing going on. He deals like blight and his 10 stress with his stun. You don't care. This boss does nothing, but you have to be specific, so he belongs in this tier. He needs to be more specific than these enemies. Shambler. You need to have a plan for him, kind of. And with him, it's always like, you can't really plan for him, because he's just randomly showing up. Unless you go for torches on champion, then you will most likely meet him in like at least one tile of the dungeon, because then he's like a 14% per hallway fight. And you can really force him by just hallway stalling. So if you really want to fight this guy, then you can. But most of the time he shows up and you just have to deal with it. But generally, like, if you fight an altar, you have to think about, do I have a good team for this fight? And that's most of the time you just need, like, some way to deal with the clappers. A-bomb is great for that, because he's so fast, he does so much damage. Leper is good if you can get in position with you. You have occultist who can stun Shambler, turn 1. Like, all of the high percentage stuns. A-bomb as well, even, but with A-bomb I would prefer a scaling rake. You have like damage over time, which goes to the prod from the clappers. Shearbreaker is great because she goes to the prod. Riposte is great because Shambler always cleaves. You just deal with the clappers somehow. Like, even if you have like a team that just hits clappers like with 3 actions, it's still fine most of the time if you have like a 4th action that deals a good amount of damage to Shambler, like a PD or something. Because Shambler's own actions really don't do anything. Like, his cleaves are fairly dangerous because they stack damage over time, but if you have holy water, it just doesn't matter. If you have like the supplies, it doesn't matter. The shuffle, sure, but that usually happens only if you haven't killed the clappers, or he's not summoning more clappers, and if he's not summoning more clappers, you're winning. Even if you get shuffled. And obviously, like, if you have a more shuffle resistant team, that team is better, but I don't think, like, this... Like, you could even argue generally good team, but I think just because, like, sometimes you don't want to fight Shambler because you don't have the good team matchup, I think he belongs, like, a tier higher than these. The other guy, he goes pretty much, like, the same tier. Like, you could even argue down here, because this guy is just very non-threatening. He shuffles you, that's it. Otherwise, there's just nothing going on in this fight. Like, technically, you definitely like having the guard break from Shearbreaker, because you can break the guard from, like, the defensive growth that spawns after you kill, like, the cultists in the back. You always want to kill the cultists in the back, because getting hit by the finger is actually very dangerous. So you kill him, defensive growth spawns, you either want, like, a high percentage done, or preferably, like, a guard break, because it's most of the time more consistent. But if you have, like, 200 base turns to cultists, like... It's 200% base turns to cultists, like, what do you expect? You are just winning. He shuffles you a bit, he doesn't deal great damage, you don't care, you just slap him in the face, he dies. So, you could argue down here if you have, like, 80% is stun, but I think it belongs, like, slightly higher than most of these bosses. Sleeper. I'm actually gonna put him up here. Sleeper himself is actually not too difficult. You need, like, rank 4 reach, and you need to have, like, good damage, or, like, a very high percentage stun, which most teams offer, so I would probably say, like, generally good team need a plan. But the reason why I'm putting Sleeper up here is because he's an Endless, and if you are an Endless, you are most likely running a team that goes far anyways, because why else would you fight Sleeper? There's, like, no reason for this. I just don't tend to do Call of Madness a lot, which is why you don't see me fight him a whole lot. But with Sleeper, it's like, if you want to go far and Endless, like, the team has to be able to deal with Sleeper, and that usually means that you have a very specific plan in mind already, because you have something like Scoundrels or any other, like, of the really good Endless teams, and it's just like those teams just deal with Sleeper because they have to. Like, if you can't deal with Sleeper and you want to, like, go far, or, like, any team that can't deal with, like, all of these very well, it's just like there's no point in it than, like, long Endless runs. And in my opinion, it's, like, the only reason you should ever fight Sleeper, because, like, I hate doing Call of Madness. Like, I hate that DLC. And if you want to be technically optimal, like, you do a lot of Endless, and I just fall asleep. And I hate doing Endless, so I basically just ban it from my runs. I do, like, the Veteran mission for Miller, but I don't go further than that. It's just like a stealth and post rule, but different playstyles change, and, like, if you just want to do this, he's probably down here, but just because he's in, like, the farms that I would put him up here, but you can disagree. Viscount. Generally, like, this guy just doesn't do anything. Like, there's no reason for this guy, who has less defenses than Hag, to be in like a champion dungeon at like the end of Crimson Court. Like, what is this guy doing? This guy generally has worse defenses than like the Hag, because he moves forward, he has less HP, and I guess he can self-heal, but the Hag can also self-heal, so. But he doesn't do anything. There's no threat from this guy. You slap him in the face, you bring anything. If your team sucks ass, like, he probably just still doesn't do anything. Because like he's easily stunned. He has like 60% stun resist for a champion boss. It's so bad. He has no HP. He dies to everything. He uses like half his actions eating and doing nothing. Half his attacks just, they barely do anything. His riposte barely does anything. He has shit HP, shit defenses. You stab him. He has bad resists. He's in Crimson Court, so you most likely have Crimson Curse, which means you just pop like 4 blood on your entire team. You either get like massive speed bonus, or you get massive damage and speed bonus. You just slap him in the face, he falls over, fight's over. I would generally fight like Viscount on every hallway tile instead of like any Chevaliers. Genuinely, this guy is not a threat. Chevalier is generally more of a threat than Viscount. I don't care about this fight. Pig. He needs decently specific teams. Like, you usually want like a combination of like debuffs, guard, and like mark clear from Arbalest, or like any one of those. Shieldbreaker is great too for like preventing mark from going onto the Arbalest, because Arbalest flare doesn't clear mark on herself, and it doesn't clear stun on herself, which is why you kind of want the guard to prevent like Vulva from stunning her. Yeah, otherwise the fight just kind of like, he loses to on-hit damage, minus on-hit damage. Same thing with Prophet. If you just bring like Lepor Cultist, this guy deals minus 100% damage, and suddenly he doesn't do anything, and then you just win. Like, Swine really isn't that difficult. Like, the less consistent version of it is you just bring Flare in like any one way to prevent one layer of Flare, aka bring like Mana Dams to guard, or you can bring Shieldbreaker to prevent the mark. That's just kind of it. Swine isn't too difficult. Like, you do need to plan specifically, because if you don't have a good plan for this guy, he can just destroy you, because Vulva stuns your healer, or like your healers even, and then like he just slaps you in the face, you fall over, and very unfortunate. Especially because Vulva is so fast, because Vulva has like 20 base speed, which you are just not outspeeding, and if he hits that 20 base speed, that is dangerous, man. Because he will outspeed you after like the Swine goes, because Swine has like 0 base speed, and so Swine will always go last, basically. Swine will crit you down to Death's Door, will take his action at the start of the round because he has fucking 20 base speed, and he's gonna death blow you. And it's gonna suck. So this fight is surprisingly dangerous, but if you have like the right strategy, this fight just doesn't do anything. Thing from the start. This guy just needs a decent plan. You obviously can't prevent fighting this guy if he does spawn. But you just don't go to the regions where he appears, or you don't open Call of Madness. That's also possible, but then you miss out on Broken Keys. Anyway, yeah, with him it's just like, if you go to the region where a thing could appear, you always want to bring like at least one counter to him, which is either like really good prot clear from like Houndmaster or something, big damage over time from like PD, some form of big burst damage if you can set up correctly, like with Jester, or obviously like Shieldbreaker, Grave Robber to just pierce the guard outright. And that's kind of just thing you have to like just bring up one of his counters, which usually end up at any team anyway, but you have to plan a bit more for this guy, because if he stays alive for too long, you just get like Skytained and Skytained. And like, otherwise, thing isn't that dangerous. Like, if you are not a Torchless, he doesn't do a whole lot. He can deal a lot of stress if you are not careful, but usually you have to know that like the boss is coming, and then you just bring like one of the counters, which are not at all difficult to fit into like any team. Like, bring damage over time is not that big of an ask for any team, especially because of how good PD is. Now, Croc. Croc, I think, goes probably up here. He's like the weakest of these, in my opinion. But Croc needs specific plans. It's like you have to bring a pull, and basically specifically Shieldbreaker, because without Shieldbreaker or Bounty Hunter, this fight becomes very dangerous. Because then you always risk Apex Predator, and Apex Predator is obviously like a really, really bad move to get hit by, especially if it crits. With Bounty Hunter, you have like Flashbang, obviously, you have Uppercut, you have the Pull, all of those, but he's very inconsistent in a way where like if he gets pushed a bit or like someone else gets pulled in front of him, suddenly you lose Uppercut, and if you don't have Uppercut you can't prevent Apex Predator anymore, and that's kind of really bad. And that's why Shieldbreaker's a lot better, because she can just pull him up front all the time. And with all the shovels, it's like it's a bit inconsistent. Usually you do get a stun on top, like with Flashbang and Disorienting Blast, which are both great heroes for the courtyard anyway, because Chevaliers exist. But you can push him into rank 4, which is always worse in my opinion than keeping up front, because I would prefer taking like the Teeth Rake over the Swarming Corruption, which is like a full team. It cleaves you, it deals a bit of damage, it deals stress, and it lowers your accuracy, which is terrible. And the other one is just like, yeah, you get pulled a bit and you get like a bleed, and it hits like decently hard and it deals a bit of stress, but it's not usually that big a deal. You just keep him up front, you stun him, and then you just kind of win. He can be like decently dangerous still with Teeth Rake, but usually it's not that big a deal. It doesn't do enough, especially if you keep stunning him, and especially if he just keeps moving back, so you trade actions basically, because then he's not doing Teeth Rake and you get more time to recover. Fanatic, this guy, I hate him. Fanatic is surprisingly dangerous because he's basically Hag, but with like actual actions and actual HP. So you can't just rush him down like with Hag, because Hag has like no HP. This guy has prot and he has like more HP, and that's actually quite dangerous. The reason like you could argue that he's like all the way down here is because just skip him. Because if you don't know how this works, like with Fanatic, either you just prevent him from going outright by never bringing more than one cursed hero per team on like a non-loading screen mission, because he can't spawn on like boss missions, he can't spawn on like any mission as a loading screen, so no appearing in the boss missions. He needs his own loading screen to pop up. If it does pop up, then you can just leave the dungeon immediately. You do lose like the loot from that dungeon, but the week doesn't actually progress until you like actually enter another room. So you just do this fight, where you just see his loading screen pop up, you just press the retreat button and he doesn't appear, and that works. You take like a bit of stress, but like 20 stress isn't that big a deal, especially because dealing with him is such a pain in the ass. He doesn't drop anything either, so he's very dangerous. I hate him. I never fight this guy. You never see me fight this guy, because it's just annoying to plan for. Because even if you want to fight him, you bring like 4 cursed heroes, like he still might not appear, and I hate that. I hate that so much. Siren, you just bring like a generally good team. Like, boss doesn't do anything, there's no damage, there's no stress, nothing happens. Like, the most dangerous part of this fight is like you get like your own hero pulled and your own hero crits you, and that's, sure, it can happen, but you can bring like one of the ways to like stun your hero with like no damage, like with Bounty Hunter. PD is great, like both, mainly those two. And you just stun like Siren, even with like a cultist. You slap her in the face, she doesn't do anything in return. Devour deals like 1 damage and like 1 bleed. The other move deals like, it's not even Madman tier stress if I remember correctly. It's just like she does nothing by herself. The summons, like, you just stun them, you just kill them. Your own hero, okay, you just kind of deal with it. You can even bring Antiquarian, and then this fight just becomes a joke, because with Antiquarian, like, she has the lowest debuff resist, and you can always kind of like manipulate her in a way where she always, like, because how Siren works is that like she always tends, it's not guaranteed, it's only a higher chance to target the hero with the lowest debuff resist on the team, and so you can kind of like bring a low level hero who's obviously less dangerous because they have lower gear level, and you have them get pulled because they have like the lower debuff resist or the lowest debuff resist on the team, and then like the hero is obviously a lot less dangerous. The one thing you should probably avoid is like bringing heroes with repose, because what could happen is that your charmed hero hits into the repose and they get like a big crit, and they fall over, and then you get like a bleed and they just die, which is a pain in the ass. Don't bring Flagellant with Redeem. You don't want Flagellant to get pulled, press Redeem, and suddenly like Hag or like Siren gets healed for like a big amount, because Redeem is based off of max HP, and Siren has a lot of max HP, so suddenly the heal heals for like fucking 100. It's very fun to see though, but very unfun to play against. But yeah, she's not that dangerous. You could argue down here, but just because you have to like kind of play around her, I think like this is a fair placement. Miller. I'm going to talk about the veteran mission instead of like the endless mission, because with endless, like he goes right up here. But you just need a plan for this guy. Like if you survive the waves, you probably survive Miller. He's not super dangerous. Like his big cleave does hit decently hard, but you can also turn it on him by bringing a triple riposte and just winning. Otherwise, like he does guard himself with like a stun immune target, so you want to bring like a guard break with shield breaker, or you just bring like triple riposte, which gets past the guard anyway. So I think like putting him here is fair. Otherwise, like if you have like a good strategy, Miller doesn't do anything. Same with like Baron, he just doesn't do anything if you have a good plan. Shrieker, he needs a very specific plan. Either you want to have like as much minus dodge or plus accuracy as possible, because you want to kill him with like a normal team. In any other scenario where you don't want to kill Shrieker, you bring one leper. At minimum, the leper needs to be level 2. You give him Withstand, Solemnity, no other skills, just these two. You equip Barristan's Head and Heavy Boots. Turn 1, you use Holy Water, you press Withstand, you go up to like 70% prot, and then you just sit there, you spam Solemnity, you heal bleeds if they pop up, and you just win. Because Shrieker just loses to one leper. And if you aren't planning on killing him, there's very little reason to not run just one leper against this fight, because every other survival tactic is usually a lot less consistent than just bringing one leper. You can even bring like 2 lepers if you have the prot trinkets, but you don't have like double Barristan's Head, so you have to find like a different option. Like Tough Ring does kind of work, but you get a lot of prot, but you do spread like the damage across 2 people, so meh, but it's whatever. Like just bring one leper, Barristan's Head, Heavy Boots, and that's it. The boss just kind of loses to that. But then again, this is bringing one specific hero or like a very specific strategy, which is buff your hit chance as much as possible. So I think like Shrieker belongs up here. Wolf. You need Man-at-Arms. That classifies him here. And I think I'm gonna put him up here as like the 4th boss. Because I don't want this bar up here to be so empty. There are like a certain amount of bosses that are actually quite dangerous, and Wolf is one of them. In my opinion, it's less about the Wolf fight, it's more about a dungeon. Because I cannot explain how many times I've been gotten crit by like the hunter in the room right before him, and like I took like 60 stress across the entire party on like every party member, and I just lost the attempt right then and there, because you flee and you lose a hero, and it hurts my soul because I hate that. And I've lost so many runs because of this mission, not even because of Wolf. Wolf himself is probably. Like, you could definitely put him down here, and I should probably put him down here, but I hate him, so I'm gonna put him up here. And you need Man-at-Arms. You need, otherwise, like, you just fight against 2 actions, basically, because Wolf himself isn't super dangerous. He very often wastes his turns just guarding the front line with no defensive buff, and pretty mediocre defenses across the board. Like, this guy just has, like, good HP, and that's it. So, you basically just bring, like, good damage into the front line. Bounty Leper, bring those heroes, especially Bounty Hunter, because you get like the extra damage against humans as well. And Mark against my goat Wolf is... love that. Because he guards the front line, so you can use like your frontline damage against him. And he usually sits in rank 3, but you just hit the guarded target, and then the guard just plays against him, and then he just falls over because he doesn't have any prot. He doesn't generate any defensive stats with his guard, so yeah, you just kill him before like the other enemies kill him. So now that I think about it, I should probably move him down. He's not going down any further because you do need Man-at-Arms specifically to tank the bombs, because there's no real other way to deal with that. Because like debuffs are a bit too slow, he has too many actions to make them stick for like a long time, unlike Prophet and Swine, because they both have 1 action. This guy has like 3, if I remember correctly, 2 or 3. So the debuffs tick down too quickly to stack them. Dodge doesn't work against him, which is like why Houndmaster isn't exactly great as a guarder, and that's why you specifically want Man-at-Arms. because the bombs ignore dodge. So you bring Man at Arms, and then you just kind of win this fight because, yeah, he doesn't do anything. Or like he does do something. You have like 2 level 5 raiders hitting you, but you just kill them before like that ever matters, and you just kind of win. Especially because you're going to stun like one of the raiders, and that becomes fairly easy. But yeah, that was 40 minutes of yapping. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more of this kind of video, of me just yapping about random things in the Darkest Dungeon, if you want more tier lists, for example, or if you want more tier lists, this is absolute slop content. But yeah, if you disagree, put your thoughts in the comments. I'm pretty sure like most of these bosses are like in a fair place. You could definitely argue like a few should be put maybe up a tier. Like maybe you could argue this, maybe. I would disagree on a lot of these. You could definitely move a lot of bosses down. You could definitely move this guy all the way down here because you just skip him. But yeah, like Flash is staying up here. That's like the only thing I'm 100% certain about. There's no way Flash is not the most dangerous boss in the game, because Flash is like the only boss that consistently kills me. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. You can catch me live on Twitch when I stream again, and hope you enjoyed the video. I said that like 3 times. I should work on like my outro skills. I don't have those. Throw this spell. There's like a weird white spot. This is where like other things pop up. Let's see. So nobody's listening to this part because the outro is already over.